Let's read the problem first. The 9th grade teachers at LPS are wondering if there is a relationship between the number of days a student is absent and the scores earned on a test. They collected data and recorded it below. So part A says to create a scatter plot of the data. So I'm going to be creating a scatter plot of the data. Be sure to include a title, label the axes with real-world variables, and include an appropriate scale. So let's start by creating kind of our axes. So I'm just going to kind of bold 2 lines. So this might be my x-axis, and then this might be my y-axis. And except it says to label the axes with real-world variables. So the x-axis, which I'll go ahead and like highlight in yellow, would be the x column of data. So it's days absent. Okay, and then my y-axis, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight in blue. It's my y column of my data, which in this case is test score. So I'll go ahead and label this test score, and that's going to be in a percentage. So far I have labeled the axes with real-world variables. I need to include a title. So I'm going to go ahead and just say days absent versus test score. Days absent versus test score. And I'm going to note that this is 9th grade. So I've included a title, I've labeled the axes, and now I need to include an appropriate scale. So let's start with the x values first. So I'm going to look through all of my x values and ask myself what is the smallest and the largest x value. So I see 0s, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Smallest being 0, largest being 5. So maybe I do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or maybe I do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could fit it all the way across. So I'll do that. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I spread it out a little bit. And now I need an appropriate scale for my y-axis. My y-axis are all the test scores. So let's see, 85, 78, 95. So far 78's the smallest. 70 is now the smallest. 65, 60's smaller. 61, and then I have a 48. So my smallest value is actually 48. My largest value seems to be like 95 maybe. Yeah, 95 is my largest. So I needed to make sure and go from 48 to 95. Maybe I go by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. That's actually all that will fit. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So I've included an appropriate scale, I've included a title, I've labeled the axes, now I need to go ahead and plot the points. So you don't have to follow me with this, you can fast forward if you like, but I need to plot all these points. So 0 is my x, 85 is my y-axis, 0, 78, and 0, 86, 0, 95. Okay, 0, 91 also, 1, 92, so I'm going to go over 1 and then up to 92, 184, 170, 165, another 65. I'm just going to put it like that. Moving over to 2, so 272, 275, 260, 261. Moving over to 3, 370, 365. Okay, I'm moving over to 4, 461, 456, 460, then 561, and 548. So I went ahead and created a scatter plot of the data. So next, I'm going to go ahead and answer question B. It says, what does the coordinate 461 represent? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this framework where I ask myself, what do I know? What can I try? Did that help? How do I communicate my answer? And so I'm going to start with what do I know? And so let's reread the question. It says, what does the coordinate 461 represent? So what do I know? I know the word coordinate, for example. So I know coordinate is x comma y. What else do I know? I know the coordinate in this problem is 461. What else do I know? Let's take a look at the graph. I know 461 is right here. And I know that in this case, the x-axis is days absent. So x equals days absent. And y equals test score. Those are all the things that I know about this problem. Now, what can I try? Well, what can I try? Let's see. I know about coordinates. Coordinates are x comma y. Maybe I'm going to substitute days absent in for x and test score in for y. So it's actually x, which is days absent, comma y, which is test score. And days absent is actually 4. Test score is 61. So that's something that I tried. I substituted in. Did that help? So is this progressing towards an answer? So it asks, what does the coordinate represent? Well, now I see 4 is the days absent and 61 is the test score. So did that help? The answer is yes. But if not, we would go back and we'd try something different. And so how do I communicate my answer? It's asking what does the coordinate represent. And so remember that scatter plots are real data. And so I might say a student that was absent for 4 days. A student absent for 4 days. What happened? They earned a test score of 61. Earned a test score of 61, and I'm going to include the unit percent. So I went ahead and I've communicated that answer. We're going to try this problem-solving process one more time. So this time it says, what does the shape and direction tell us about the relationship between the two variables? So what do I know? It's asking me what does the shape and direction tell me about the relationship between the two variables, right? What do I know? Well, again, I know that the x-axis is days absent. And I know the y-axis is test score. What else do I know? Well, it's asking about shape and direction, right? So maybe, what is the shape? So the shape, taking a look at this shape, I might say that this shape is generally linear. Maybe. And then the direction. So what is the direction? I see that as x values are increasing, the y values are decreasing. So if I trace this with my pen, it's kind of falling from left to right. So the direction would be negative. Right? Okay, so those are the things I know. I know x is days absent, y is test score, the shape is generally linear, and the direction is negative. So what can I try? Maybe what I do is I kind of evaluate what does negative mean. So let's think about what does negative mean. And it says in relationship to the two variables. So our two variables are days absent and test scores. So I know that something that's negative means that as x increases, y is actually decreasing. That's what it means. And so I'm going to substitute, instead of x increases, I'm going to use days absent. So as days absent increases, y decreases. So test score decreases. So what I've done is I've kind of interpreted, or I kind of substituted, right, days absent in for x and test score in for y. So did this help? Does this progress towards the answer? So the question is asking, what is the shape and direction? So the direction being negative, tell us about the relationship. So we're starting to say as days absent increases, the test score decreases. So yes, it did help. So how do I communicate my answer? Well, I need to answer the question and I need to use math. So I'm going to start my sentence by using the math. I'm going to say something like, considering the direction is negative, which is something we know by looking at the graph. We know that the shape is negative. Considering the direction is negative, we know as number of days a student is absent, increases, the test score generally decreases. And so this is really my answer. You're going to try number 2 on your own and turn it in tomorrow.